Hello, Instagram. I hope you're well today. I have some time and I thought I would jump on and make up for Truth and Tea that got lost on Tuesday. I'm going to talk about shadows. It's just going to be a short one, but I wanted to make up for missing Tuesday's time slot, and I want to share with you a little bit about shadows. So I've been doing a lot of work in the village over the last week to dole some shadow work out to my sisters. And there's questions coming up. Of course there is, right? And there's a few things that I realized that maybe more people don't actually know about shadows. So I thought I would jump on and share a little bit today, because it's kind of like a trendy word, isn't it? It's kind of like, it's a fatty word. Are you doing your shadow work? Like, how often have you heard that? So I guess I kind of assumed that more people understood what that meant than do. And so I wanted to come on and chat with you and share with you about shadow work, because it is the exact work that needs to be done in order for you to shift from the current vibration that you're in into a vibration of fulfillment. So I've been doing shadow work for well over a decade. I actually think that shadow work is probably something that I've done to some degree for a lot longer than that even. But I didn't ever know that I was doing shadow work. I thought that I was just really digging into my self-awareness. I thought that maybe my triple air signs and my big three had me like in my head analyzing things. But most of what I was doing was accessing these shadow spaces inside of myself in order to accept, overcome, and recalibrate to them in order to enjoy my life. And I was naturally doing this for a long time before I realized what was actually taking place. And then shadow work became like all the rage. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's doing it, and you hear about it everywhere. So once it started to kind of become all the rage, I looked into it. Lo and behold, I'd been doing it for a long time. So what I also discovered is that my work as a coach is often to go inside and retrieve shadows out of my clients, illuminate them, and then the most important work that I do is actually help them work through the shadows. So over the last week, I've been doling them out with these Astro Money Code readings, because what it is that we're looking at is your specific money blocks and prosperity shadows that are keeping you in your misfortune frequency. And so while I'm doling out this shadow work, I am also walking with my sisters along that path. I am not only shining the light on what they need to become aware of in order to shift into alignment, but I'm also shedding a light on what they can do about it. So I just wanted to share with you what shadow work looks like, with a couple of examples, so that you could possibly start recognizing A, if you're already doing it, or B, when you can implement more. The thing about doing shadow work is that the goal is always to welcome in more self-acceptance and awareness. So we start with the awareness piece. We can't accept stuff we're not aware of. So first, we bring in awareness. We start to become aware of the places inside of ourselves that we've kept repressed, hidden, or in the dark. Okay, so we become aware of those things, and then we work on accepting them. So when we're looking at these Astro Money Code readings and we see our prosperity blocks and we see our money shadows as two different things. Blocks are things we want to resolve. We want to be able to resolve those blocks so that we can work through the shadows, get out of the misfortune frequency, and into our wealthy women vibe. So when we're talking specifically about our shadows, our prosperity shadows, those are things we want to go in and we want to become aware of, and we want to accept them. Our blocks are things that we want to resolve, and we want to be able to work through, break them open, bust through the block. But the shadows are things we actually just want to accept. So I'm going to share with you a few shadows that have come up in the village and in my life, and how that looks in like real time. So, for instance, when we're talking about these prosperity shadows, of course, we're seeing how what we're doing and what we believe and the things about ourselves that we don't accept are actually holding us back. So there's a woman in the village that we did her reading, and what we found for her was that she has this shadow inside of her that is pushing her to cultivate status in her life. So she has got a shadow that is pushing her to rock a career, make the money, take on all the hours, do all the hard work, make a name for herself, and collect the dollar bills. When we dove into what her wealthy woman vibe is, what we found is that has nothing to do with career, has nothing to do with status, it has nothing to do with money, and that in fact the whole time she's pushing towards those things, she's pushing her wealth away. And so we have to look at that shadow inside of her. Why does she feel called to do this? Why does she feel so compelled to create status, to hoard money or information, to the biggest part of it was to create a career that gave her status and money, when it was literally the last thing that she needed to do in order to align with her wealth. And so we need to look at that shadow. We need to know why. Why are you so driven? Now, this one I wanted to share with you because it's kind of an easy one for the grander scheme of people to see. And what I mean by that is we know deep inside of each and every one of us why we feel compelled to create status, money, and wealth in our life, to align ourselves with a job that's going to pay off. That's a very capitalist viewpoint. And so it's easy for all of us to understand why someone would have that urge, right? Why someone would have that. And so that person needs to look at that shadow and figure out what it means for them, how they accept that that is not what they're here to do in this lifetime, and that they're never going to create some type of status or like big income empire. They need to work through why they wanted to do that in the first place, accept that they wanted to do it in the first place, accept that it didn't work when they tried because it's not what they're supposed to be doing. And they also then need to accept a new path. So this is what we do when we look at our shadows. And when I say accept, you can't literally just be like, okay, I see it and I accept it. It takes work. It takes every time you come up to that belief system, that value, that thought, that shadow, you do something in a different way. So for this person, for instance, instead of making choices based on money, based on status, based on a career, they need to shift how they're making their choices. So when they come up against something and they're like, oh, okay, I need to make a choice here. And they're feeling compelled, like, yeah, gotta get the clients, gotta get the money, gotta get the status. They now know that they're going to take a minute and they're going to take a deep breath and they're going to say, okay, how can I shift into doing this from another place? How can I shift into doing this from love? Does it even need to be done? Right? So another shadow that I wanted to share with you is a little bit more of a taboo shadow. And this is coming up for a lot of people. Okay. And it makes complete sense that this is something that would come up for people. A lot of our shadows are directly connected to our intimacy and our sex life, because those are things we don't talk about. Those are things that are in the dark. Those are things that we repress. And so often they show up in our shadows and in our shadow work. So I'm going to share with you something that I discovered about myself over the years and how I had to accept, resolve, and live into this shadow in order to experience more fulfillment. So trigger alert, if you don't want to hear about my sex life, then leave now because I'm about to talk about it. So I discovered a shadow inside of me that I really liked oral sex. I like oral sex. It's awesome. It's great. I have fun doing it. And usually so does the person that's receiving it. However, for a long time, I felt ashamed of that. And I didn't just feel ashamed of that because like, ooh, it's sex and, you know, it's what it is. There's layers and layers that have to do with my childhood trauma, my own sexual trauma, my experience with numerous different men are all kind of compiled onto this, oh my God, I like to give blowjobs. I need to figure out why, and I need to accept it. Well, the why here is because it makes me feel good. That was simple. I don't need to go any further than that. Why do I like it? It makes me feel good. Then I began working on accepting it. And what that means is I don't shame myself for it anymore. Literally no shame. I can openly say I like to give blowjobs and I don't feel any sort of way about it at all. So the awareness, the acceptance, then it starts to create fulfillment. And it creates fulfillment because guess what? I'm not ashamed of doing it anymore. I'm not ashamed of doing it while I do it. I'm not ashamed of doing it when I'm thinking about doing it. I'm not ashamed of doing it when I'm talking about doing it. So we have now shifted from becoming aware of the shadow to accepting the shadow to integrating a new way of being and cultivating more fulfillment. My sex life got way better once I just accepted that. It's basically what I'm saying. So I'm inviting you to do the same, to find a place in your life that just doesn't work, isn't quite fitting, and see if you can find a shadow there. See if you can find an opportunity to do something different in order to cultivate a higher frequency. Okay? So I'm going to give you a little, if you make it this far, I'm going to give you a little, an exercise to do. So right now we're talking about our wealthy woman vibe in the village. We are talking about our astro money codes. And in there we find our wealthy woman vibe, our misfortune frequency, our prosperity portal, and our blocks and shadows. So this is a super comprehensive reading. We are all working on our shadows with regards to our wealthy woman vibe right now. This is a free reading if you're in the village. So if you're interested, definitely just get in the village. But if you're not ready to do that, if maybe perhaps one of your shadows is intertwined with the sisterhood wound, or you feel like you're just working too hard, you have too much to do and you can't commit, just take on this little exercise. And perhaps you can start to figure out who your wealthy woman vibe is and some of the shadow work that you need to do in order to access her. So what I want you to do, what I have found out of all of the readings I've done, I've now done over 10 readings in the last 3 days, maybe a little bit longer, but whatever. I'm finding a theme, and this is what it is. What our wealthy vibe looks like is something that we value highly inside of us, a value that we have that is shit on or taken advantage of by society, and often not in alignment with the capitalistic lifestyle. Okay. Our wealthy women vibes are often something that we value that other people take advantage or shit on, that is not accepted in our capitalistic lifestyle. Okay. So for instance, that woman who is striving for success, career, and status, when really what she's supposed to be doing in order to align with her wealthy woman vibe is moving into a space of advocacy and charity, right? She really does value helping others. She values helping others, loving on others, giving to others, providing for others. She really, really, really does value that. But she's been taught her whole life that there is no value in that. She's been taught in her life that there is value in status, career, working, job. And so when we discovered that her wealthy woman vibe was actually directly connected to charity work and to advocacy work, a lot shifted for her. Another one is a woman who she deeply values intimate connections and collaboration. Deeply, deeply values intimate connections and collaboration. But her whole life, whenever she was in those situations, she got shit on. She got shit on so bad. And so what ended up happening was that she built up a wall. And now it's difficult. Intimacy, connections, collaboration are difficult for her because it's been shit on. What she valued was shit on. Is this making sense for you? So for me, for instance, my wealthy woman vibe is just love and light. She is love and light. She is innocent. And I value innocence. I value purity. And not in like necessarily the biblical sense. Just like I value peace. I value liberation. I value justice. My wealthy woman vibe shows up in the sign of Libra. And all of those things have been shit on in my life or taken advantage of. If not in my life, in society as a whole. The innocence is taken advantage of. The justice system is garbage. And that has really, really showed up in my life. So now I see the work that I have to do. I see why I was pulled away from my wealthy woman vibration. I need to realign with what I value despite what the world around me says. So I'm going to invite you to figure out what you value that's been shit on or that has been taken advantage of in your lifetime, and start going to the shadow spaces. Again, I value innocence. I value justice. I value just diplomacy. So, figuring out that one of my shadows is that I really love to give blowjobs was something I had to work through. And when I did, guess what? I got closer to her. I got closer to my own innocence, to my own justice, to my own balance and diplomacy. Anyways, vibrations work in weird ways, and each and every one of us have our own. If you're interested in your money codes, then get in the village. Click the link in my bio, join us, and you'll get yours absolutely free. Okay. I'm being called. Bye.
You in here?
I am.